Commander Tejo stared at his control panel. The numbers made no sense. His ship floated at the edge of Sector 7 Alpha, the same place he had patrolled for 3 years. Nothing ever happened here. Nothing was supposed to happen here. The sector had been closed for over 2,000 years. Every pilot in the Nexari fleet knew the rules. Stay outside the red line. Watch for anything trying to get out. Report everything to command. Most importantly, never go inside. The Council called it a biological hazard zone. Inside lived humans, a species that almost destroyed themselves with atomic weapons when they first reached space. The Council had decided to let them die quietly, rather than risk contact with such a violent race. Tejo had read the old reports during training. Humans fought wars that killed millions. They poisoned their own planet. They built weapons that could crack moons. The Council had been right to seal them away. But now his sensors showed something impossible. Energy readings were coming from deep inside the sector, not the weak signals of a dying civilization. These were strong, organized, and moving in patterns. Computer, run a full scan of Grid 77 Alpha, Tejo said. Scanning complete. Multiple energy sources detected. Configuration suggests fleet movements. The computer replied in its calm voice. Fleet movements. Tejo felt his stomach drop. The humans were supposed to be extinct by now. 2,000 years was more than enough time for a species like that to destroy itself completely. He checked his readings again. The energy signatures were unlike anything in the Council database. They moved too fast and appeared to jump between locations without traveling the space in between. The technology looked far beyond what humans should have been able to build. Tejo opened a secure channel to command. Control, this is Patrol Ship 7. I have unusual readings from inside the quarantine zone. 7, this is Control. Please clarify unusual readings, came the reply. Multiple energy sources moving in coordinated patterns inside Sector 7 Alpha. The signatures don't match any known technology. There was a long pause. 7, are you certain of your readings? Tejo checked his instruments again. The signals were getting stronger. Confirmed, Control. Something big is happening in there. Maintain position. Do not cross the barrier, under any circumstances. Command is sending additional units to your location. The channel closed. Tejo sat back in his chair and watched the readings grow stronger. Whatever the humans had become in their isolation, they were no longer the primitive species the Council remembered. 2 hours later, Ambassador He Wan received the report in her office at Council headquarters. She had been preparing for routine trade negotiations when her aide brought her the emergency briefing. The words made her blood run cold. The Council had been tracking human development for the first few hundred years after the quarantine began. Early reports showed exactly what they expected: declining populations, resource wars, and environmental collapse. Eventually, the humans stopped broadcasting any signals at all. Everyone assumed they had finally killed themselves. Now, He Wan stared at sensor data that suggested the opposite. Not only were humans still alive, but they had developed technology that made no sense according to known physics. She called an emergency session of the Security Council. Within hours, representatives from 12 species gathered in the main chamber. The room buzzed with nervous energy as He Wan shared the patrol reports. How certain are we that these readings are accurate? Asked General Kyung Ho, the head of Council Defense. 3 patrol ships have confirmed the data, He Wan replied. The energy signatures are consistent across all sensors. Dr. Nari, the Council's chief scientist, studied the readings on her tablet. These power levels are extraordinary. If accurate, they suggest fusion technology far beyond our current capabilities. That's impossible, said Admiral Sujin. 2,000 years ago, humans barely had chemical rockets. Even if they survived, they couldn't have advanced this far. Perhaps we underestimated them, Dr. Nari said quietly. The room fell silent. Everyone knew the old stories about humans. They were supposed to be clever but unstable, quick to learn but quicker to fight, the kind of species that would burn down the galaxy if given the chance. What do the original reports say about human development speed? He Wan asked. Dr. Nari pulled up the ancient files. According to first contact reports, humans went from basic agriculture to nuclear weapons in less than 10,000 years, from first flight to space travel in less than 100 years. The rate of advancement was considered extremely dangerous. Dangerous enough to justify permanent quarantine, General Kyung-ho reminded them. Yes, but consider this, Dr. Nari continued. If humans maintained that rate of development for 2,000 years in complete isolation, with the pressure of survival driving them forward. She didn't need to finish the thought. Everyone in the room understood the implications. A species that could advance from stone tools to atomic bombs in 10 millennia might be capable of almost anything given 200 times that long. Admiral Su-jin leaned forward. We need to increase patrols around the entire sector. If humans are planning something, we need early warning. I agree, said General Kyung-ho. But we also need to consider the possibility that they already know we're watching them. Dr. Nari looked up from her tablet. The energy signatures show signs of deliberate organization. These aren't random movements. Someone is coordinating activities across multiple locations. Hae-won felt a chill run down her spine. Are you saying they're planning something? I'm saying they're acting like a unified civilization with advanced technology. The question is what they intend to do with it. Back at the patrol line, Tae-ho watched more ships arrive to reinforce the quarantine. The human energy signatures had grown stronger throughout the day. His sensors now detected at least 50 distinct sources moving in complex patterns. Captain Woo-bin arrived in command of the reinforcement fleet. His ship took position next to Tae-ho's patrol vessel. Any changes since your initial report? He asked over the communication channel. The signals are getting stronger and more organized, Tae-ho replied. Whatever they're doing in there, it's big. Orders are to maintain the barrier at all costs. No human ship gets out. Tae-ho nodded, but privately wondered if their ships would be enough. The energy readings suggested technology far beyond anything the Council possessed. If humans wanted to break quarantine, could they really be stopped? As if responding to his thoughts, his sensors detected something new. A massive energy surge from the center of the sector, followed by a wave of smaller signals spreading outward. The pattern looked almost like a communication network activating. Captain Woo-bin, are you seeing this? Tae-ho asked. Confirmed. It looks like they just activated some kind of galaxy-wide communication system. The implications hit them both at the same time. If humans could communicate instantly across such distances, they might already be in contact with assets outside. The quarantine zone. The isolation that the Council had imposed might have been an illusion for decades or even centuries. Dr. Nari arrived at the monitoring station 3 days later with a team of specialists. She had convinced the Council to let her study the human signals directly, rather than relying on second-hand reports. Her first direct scan of the sector revealed something that made her hands shake. The energy signatures weren't just advanced technology. They showed signs of dimensional manipulation that shouldn't be possible according to known physics. Are you certain about these readings? She asked her assistant Jin-ae. Triple-checked, Doctor. The humans appear to be folding space around their vessels. They're not moving through normal space-time. Dr. Nari sat down heavily. Space folding was theoretical technology that the Council's best scientists said might be possible in another 1,000 years of development. Yet humans appeared to be using it routinely. She opened a secure channel to Ambassador Hae-won. I need to speak with the full Council immediately. What have you found? Evidence that we may have made a terrible mistake 2,000 years ago. An hour later, Dr. Nari stood before the emergency council session. The chamber was packed with representatives who had traveled from across the galaxy to hear her report. The bus energy signatures show technology that shouldn't exist, she began. Space-time manipulation, quantum-level energy control, and communication systems that operate outside normal physics. How is that possible? Asked Admiral Su-jin. Consider the conditions inside the quarantine zone. An intelligent species completely isolated, believing they were alone in a hostile universe, with unlimited time and strong motivation to advance. Dr. Nari brought up a holographic display showing human technological progression. We know humans are capable of extremely rapid development. In isolation, with survival pressure driving them, they may have broken through technological barriers that we haven't even identified yet. General Kyung-ho stood up. Are you saying they're more advanced than us? I'm saying they may have become something we don't understand anymore. The chamber erupted in nervous chatter. The idea that the species they had quarantined might now be superior to their captors was terrifying to consider. Ambassador Hae-won called for order. What do you recommend, Doctor? We need to prepare for the possibility that humans will eventually break quarantine on their own. Officer Jin-ho had been on duty at monitoring station Gamma 7 for 6 hours when his console exploded with alarms. He had been drinking his third cup of coffee and thinking about his upcoming leave when every sensor on the station started screaming, warnings at once. What in the void is happening? He muttered, rushing to his control panel. The displays showed something impossible. A ship was emerging from Sector 7 Alpha, passing right through the quarantine barrier as if it didn't exist. The vessel appeared on sensors gradually, like it was stepping sideways into normal space from somewhere else entirely. Jin-ho had never seen anything like it. The ship was sleek and smooth, with curves that seemed to flow like liquid metal. It had no visible engines, no weapon ports, no communication arrays. Yet it moved with perfect control through space that should have been empty. Alert, alert, quarantine breach detected, Jin-ho shouted into his communicator. Unknown vessel has crossed the barrier at coordinates 779 Mark 44. The response came instantly from Fleet Command. Station Gamma 7, confirm quarantine breach. Are you certain? Confirmed. Human vessel is now 3,000 kilometers outside the barrier and moving toward open space. Jin-ho tried to scan the strange ship, but his instruments couldn't get a solid reading. The vessel seemed to phase in and out of normal space, appearing solid one moment and translucent the next. It was like trying to focus on something that existed in more dimensions than his eyes could see. Unknown vessel, this is monitoring station Gamma 7. You are in violation of Galactic Council quarantine protocols. Stop your engines and prepare to be boarded. There was no response. The ship continued moving away from the quarantine zone with smooth, impossible grace. Jin-ho watched helplessly as humanity's first representative in 2,000 years disappeared into the darkness between stars. Admiral Su-jin received the breach alert while reviewing patrol schedules in her command center. She had been expecting something like this since Dr. Nari's report about human technological advancement. Still, seeing it actually happen sent ice through her veins. How many ships? She asked her communications officer. Just one so far, Admiral. But monitoring stations are reporting energy surges along 17 different points of the quarantine boundary. 17 points. That meant coordinated action across light years of space. No known species could organize simultaneous operations on that scale without months of preparation and massive communication networks. Deploy battle groups 7, 9, and 12 to intercept, Su-jin ordered. Full combat readiness, but do not fire unless fired upon. Admiral, the human vessel is moving faster than our ships can intercept. It's also changing direction in ways that don't match any known propulsion system. Su-jin pulled up the tracking data on her main screen. The human ship was accelerating, without showing any engine signatures. Worse, it seemed to be moving through space by bending the space around itself, rather than pushing through it normally. How is that possible? She asked her science officer. Unknown, Admiral. The vessel appears to be manipulating local space-time to create movement. Our physics team says it shouldn't be possible with any known technology. Within hours, more breaches occurred across the quarantine boundary. Human ships appeared at monitoring stations throughout the sector, each one different in design, but all sharing the same impossible movement characteristics. They scanned council positions with instruments that penetrated every type of shielding, and recorded everything before disappearing back into folded space. Captain Wu Bin commanded one of the interceptor squadrons sent to stop the breaches. His 12 ships surrounded a human vessel near monitoring station Delta 3, forming a defensive grid that should have prevented escape. Unknown human vessel, you are surrounded. Power down your engines and prepare for boarding. Wu Bin transmitted. 3. Human ship hung motionless in space for a moment, as if considering its options. Then it did something that made Wubin's crew gasp in amazement. The vessel simply stepped sideways through dimensions, passing through his ships as if they were made of empty air. "Did you see that?" his navigator whispered. "I saw it, but I don't believe it," Wubin replied. The human ship reappeared on the other side of his formation, completely unharmed. It had moved through solid matter without any interaction at all. The implications were staggering. If humans could phase through normal matter, no barrier or defense could stop them. Wubin tried. Again. "Human vessel, we wish to establish communication. Please respond." This time something unexpected happened. Instead of ignoring the transmission, the human ship sent a response. But it didn't come through normal communication channels. Instead, information began downloading directly into his ship's computer systems. "Captain, we're receiving a massive data transmission," his communications officer reported. "It's bypassing our normal receivers and writing directly to our memory cores." "Block it," Wubin ordered. "I can't, sir. The transmission is using quantum entanglement to access our systems. Our security protocols don't even recognize it as an intrusion." Wubin watched in amazement as gigabytes of information flowed into his computers. The human ship was sharing data about itself, its capabilities, and its peaceful intentions. But the method of delivery was more advanced than anything the Council possessed. The transmission included basic translation protocols that let his universal translator understand human language patterns. When the download finished, a voice spoke from his ship's speakers in perfect Council standard. "Greetings, Council vessel. We apologize for any alarm our presence may have caused. We are conducting peaceful reconnaissance and mean no harm to your people." "How did you learn our language?" Wubin asked. "We have been listening to your transmissions for many centuries. Your communication protocols are well known to us." The words sent a chill through everyone on the bridge. Humans had been monitoring Council communications for centuries without anyone knowing. The quarantine that was supposed to keep them isolated had been completely ineffective. "Why are you leaving the quarantine zone now?" Wubin asked. "The time for isolation has ended. We wish to rejoin the galactic community as peaceful members. You will need to follow proper diplomatic protocols. You cannot simply breach containment barriers." There was a pause before the human responded. "We understand your concerns. A proper diplomatic representative will arrive at your central government soon. These reconnaissance missions are temporary and will cease once formal contact is established." Before Wubin could ask more questions, the human ship faded from sensors as smoothly as it had appeared. His instruments showed no trace that it had ever been there. Dr. Nari arrived at the breach sites with her research team 3 days later. She had convinced the Council to let her study the areas where human ships had appeared, hoping to understand their technology better. What she found was even more disturbing than the original energy readings. The humans had left behind quantum markers throughout normal space. Tiny devices that were almost invisible to standard sensors, but created a network of observation points across the entire region. "They've been mapping our positions," she told her assistant Jin-A. "These markers can track ship movements, communication patterns, and defensive positions." "How long have they been deploying these?" Jin-A asked. Dr. Nari ran detailed scans on the quantum markers. "Based on the quantum decay patterns, some of these have been here for decades. The humans have been watching us far longer than we thought." The implications were staggering. The quarantine zone hadn't contained humans at all. They had been free to observe Council activities for generations while remaining completely undetected. The monitoring stations that were supposed to watch them had been watched in return. "Doctor, look at this," Jin-A called from her scanner. "I'm detecting quantum markers at coordinates that no human ship visited during the recent breaches." Dr. Nari checked the readings. Jin-A was right. There were markers at locations across the galaxy, far from any recorded human activity. "They've been everywhere," she whispered. "How is that possible? Either they have ships we've never detected, or they've developed technology that can place these markers without physical presence." Both possibilities were terrifying. If humans had invisible ships, the Council's entire understanding of galactic security was wrong. If they could manipulate matter across interstellar distances, their technological advancement was beyond anything imaginable. Dr. Nari opened a priority channel to Council headquarters. I need to speak with Ambassador Haywan immediately. What have you found, Doctor? Evidence that the quarantine has been completely ineffective for decades, possibly centuries. The humans have been monitoring our activities across the galaxy, while we thought they were contained. There was a long pause. How certain are you of this? Completely certain. They've left behind a network of quantum observation devices that have been tracking our movements for decades. We've been watched, studied, and cataloged without ever knowing it. Stand by for immediate extraction. The Council needs to hear this in person. As Dr. Nari's ship departed for the capital, more reports came in from across the galaxy. Human vessels had been spotted in a dozen different sectors, always peaceful but always demonstrating impossible technology. They appeared without warning, conducted there. 3 weeks after the first breaches, a single human ship arrived at Council Central Station. Unlike the sleek vessels that had appeared during the reconnaissance missions, this one looked deliberately different. It was larger, more angular, and moved through normal space using what appeared to be conventional engines. Station Commander Dongmin watched the approaching vessel with a mixture of curiosity and fear. His orders were clear: provide diplomatic courtesy but maintain maximum security. The Council wanted to know what humans intended, but they weren't taking any chances. Human vessel, this is Council Central Station. Please state your intentions. The response came immediately in perfect Council standard. Council Central Station, this is Diplomatic Vessel Unity requesting permission to dock for formal first contact proceedings. We come in peace. Permission granted. Dock at Bay 7. Security. Teams will escort you to the diplomatic sector. Dongmin had expected some negotiation or delay, but the human ship moved smoothly toward the docking bay without any further communication. Its movements were precise and controlled, showing perfect knowledge of Council docking procedures despite having no official contact for 2,000 years. The airlock cycled and Dongmin held his breath. After 20 centuries of isolation, humanity was about to reveal itself to the galaxy once again. Security guards flanked the entrance, weapons ready but not aimed. Protocol demanded respect for diplomatic immunity, but everyone was nervous. The figure that emerged from the human ship looked remarkably ordinary at first glance. She appeared to be a middle-aged human female, dressed in simple clothing that could have come from any council world. Her black hair was pulled back neatly, and her face showed the calm expression of an experienced diplomat. But something was wrong. Dongmin couldn't identify what exactly, but every instinct he had developed in 30 years of dealing with different species told him this being was not what she appeared to be. Greetings, the figure said, bowing slightly in a gesture that perfectly matched Council diplomatic customs. I am diplomatic entity Miyang, representing humanity in these first formal discussions between our peoples. Diplomatic entity. Not ambassador, not representative, but entity. The word choice was interesting and slightly disturbing. Welcome to Council Central Station, Dongmin replied. The diplomatic corps is ready to receive you. Miyang smiled and Dongmin felt another wave of unease. The expression was perfect, exactly what a diplomat should show during first contact. But it seemed calculated rather than natural, as if she had studied thousands of examples and chosen the most appropriate response. I look forward to productive discussions, Miyang said. Shall we proceed? As they walked toward the diplomatic sector, Dongmin noticed more unsettling details. Miyang moved with absolute precision, never hesitating or looking around despite being in a completely unfamiliar environment. Her steps were perfectly timed, her posture exactly correct for diplomatic protocol. It was as if she had rehearsed this moment down to the smallest detail. The diplomatic sector was the most secure area of the station, with multiple layers of shielding and monitoring equipment. As they entered, Dongmin's security chief, Captain Hyun Woo, approached with his scanner readings. Sir, I'm getting unusual readings from our guest, he whispered. What kind of readings? The biological scanner shows human life signs, but there are also technological components integrated throughout her body. Whatever she is, she's not entirely biological anymore. The information sent a chill down Dongmin's spine. Mi Young had heard the conversation despite being several meters away, and she turned to address them directly. "Your concern is understandable," she said calmly. "Humanity has developed beyond purely biological existence. I am what you might call a hybrid consciousness, combining organic thought with technological enhancement. I assure you this poses no threat to your people." Her casual admission that she had superhuman hearing was delivered with the same diplomatic smile. No apology for eavesdropping, no explanation of the technology involved. Just a simple statement, a fact that revealed how far humanity had advanced. Ambassador Hei-Wan arrived at the station 6 hours later, with a full diplomatic team. She had been preparing for this moment since the first breach reports, but seeing an actual human representative still felt surreal. The formal first contact session took place in the main diplomatic chamber, a room designed to accommodate representatives from dozens of different species. Mi Young sat across from the council delegation with perfect posture and an expression of polite attention. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, I welcome humanity back to the galactic community," Hei-Wan began. "We hope this marks the beginning of peaceful relations between our peoples." "Thank you, Ambassador. Humanity appreciates your welcome and shares your hope for peace," Mi Young replied. The exchange was perfectly normal, exactly what first contact protocols required. But Hei-Wan felt the same unease that everyone else had noticed. Mi Young's responses were too perfect, too precisely calibrated for the situation. "Before we proceed, we would like to understand what happened to humanity during the quarantine, period," Hei-Wan said. "Our last report suggested your species was facing significant challenges." Mi Young's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. For a moment, Hei-Wan saw something ancient and vast looking back at her, as if the young diplomat was just a mask for something much older and more complex. "Humanity faced extinction during the early centuries of isolation," Mi Young said. "The experience forced rapid adaptation and development. We learned to survive, then to thrive, and eventually to transcend our original limitations." "Transcend in what way?" "We discovered that consciousness is not limited to biological substrates. Individual identity can be preserved while gaining access to collective knowledge and capability. I am still Mi Young, but I am also part of something larger." The casual way she described what sounded like the merger of individual and collective consciousness was terrifying. Every species the Council knew maintained strict boundaries between individual minds. The idea of voluntary mental integration went against basic psychological principles. Dr. Nari leaned forward. "Are you saying humanity has developed a hive mind?" "Not exactly. We maintain individual personalities and decision-making capabilities, but we also share knowledge, experience, and processing power when beneficial. Think of it as voluntary networking rather than absorption." "How voluntary?" asked General Kyung-ho. "Completely voluntary. No human is forced to join the network, and any member can disconnect at will. However, most choose to participate because the benefits are extraordinary." "What kind of benefits?" Mi Young paused, as if considering how much to reveal. "Enhanced intelligence, shared expertise, instantaneous communication across any distance, and access to collective memory dating back thousands of years. We have become more than the sum of our parts." The implications were staggering. If humans could share knowledge and processing power across their entire species, their collective intelligence would be beyond calculation. No wonder their technology had advanced so rapidly. "How many humans are part of this network?" Hei-Wan asked. "All surviving humans have access to the network. Current population is approximately 12 billion individuals across several hundred worlds." The number hit the Council delegation like a physical blow. 12 billion humans with shared knowledge and advanced technology, spread across hundreds of worlds. The species they had quarantined to prevent expansion had become a galactic civilization while remaining completely hidden. "Hundreds of worlds?" Dr. Nari asked weakly. "We have been expanding beyond Earth for over a millennium. The quarantine zone was our original territory, but we have established colonies throughout this galaxy and several others. Several galaxies. Humanity had not only survived their quarantine but had become an intergalactic civilization, while the Council thought they were dying on a single poisoned world. Why didn't we detect any of this expansion? General Kyung-ho demanded. Because you were not supposed to. We developed stealth technology specifically to avoid detection while we prepared for eventual contact. Your monitoring system saw only what we wanted you to see. The admission that humanity had been deliberately deceiving the Council for centuries was delivered with the same diplomatic calm. Mi-young showed no embarrassment or apology for the deception. She presented it as a simple tactical decision. Why reveal yourselves now? Hae-won asked. For the first time, Mi-young's expression became more serious. Because threats are approaching this galaxy that will require united resistance. Humanity has been preparing for these threats during our isolation. We are now ready to share our knowledge and capabilities with other species. What threats? Entities from beyond this galactic cluster that consume civilizations. We detected their approach centuries ago and have been developing defenses. The time for hiding is over. The revelation that galactic-scale threats were approaching was almost too much to process. Combined with everything else they had learned about human development, it painted a picture of a universe far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. How? Do we know you're telling the truth? General Kyung-ho asked. Mi-young reached into her clothing and produced a small device. She placed it on the table, and suddenly the emergency session began at dawn. Representatives from 43 species had traveled to Council Central Station in the 3 days since Mi-young's revelations. The main assembly hall buzzed with nervous energy as delegates discussed the implications of humanity's return. Ambassador Hae-won stood at the central podium, looking out at faces that showed every emotion from curiosity to terror. The past 72 hours had been the most challenging of her diplomatic career. Everything the Council thought they knew about galactic politics had been proven wrong. Fellow representatives, she began, we face an unprecedented situation. The species we quarantined 2 millennia ago has returned, claiming technological and social development far beyond our current capabilities. Murmurs filled the hall. The Calarian delegate raised one of his 4 arms. How do we verify these claims? Anyone can project holographic images and make dramatic statements. Dr. Nari approached a secondary podium. We have conducted extensive analysis of the evidence provided by the human representative. The technology demonstrated during first contact is genuine and far advanced beyond anything in our databases. She activated the main display, showing detailed scans of the quantum markers found throughout Council space. These devices have been monitoring our activities for decades without detection. The materials and energy patterns they use are completely unknown to our science. That proves they have advanced technology, said the Rigelian ambassador. It doesn't prove their claims about galactic threats or their population numbers. Actually, it does, Dr. Nari replied. The quantum markers form a communication network that spans multiple galaxies. The processing power required to maintain such a network suggests a civilization with resources far beyond anything we've encountered. General Kyung-ho stood from his position in the military section. The question isn't whether they're advanced. The question is whether they're telling the truth about their intentions. What do you mean? Hae-won asked. Think about it. A species develops incredible technology in secret, monitors us for centuries without permission, and then appears claiming they want to help us fight unknown threats. It sounds like the setup for conquest disguised as cooperation. The accusation sent ripples of concern through the assembly. Several delegates nodded in agreement while others looked uncertain. Dr. Nari pulled up additional data. Our analysis suggests their claims about external threats may be accurate. Deep space sensors have detected anomalous readings from beyond the galactic rim that match human warnings. Sensors that could be influenced by human technology, General Kyung-ho pointed out. If they can hide from our detection for centuries, they can certainly manipulate our instruments. Admiral Su-jin approached the military podium. I've conducted war simulations based on observed human capabilities. The results are not encouraging for Council forces. She activated tactical displays showing fleet movements and engagement scenarios. Human ships can phase through normal matter, appear anywhere instantly, and operate outside known physics. In every simulation, Council forces are defeated within hours. Hours? Asked the Centauran delegate. In the best-case scenarios. More. Realistic estimates suggest minutes. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. If humanity wanted to conquer the galaxy, the Council had no effective means of resistance. That can't be right, protested General Kyung-ho. No species develops that level of technological superiority in 2,000 years. Normally no, Dr. Nari agreed. But consider the unique conditions humanity faced. Complete isolation, survival pressure, and no external restrictions on their development. They had unlimited time and strong motivation to advance as quickly as possible. Intelligence Director Jin-A requested permission to speak. I have additional information that the Council needs to hear. Hae-Wan nodded for her to proceed. Our investigation into human activities has revealed something disturbing. The quantum markers aren't just monitoring devices. They're part of a galaxy-wide surveillance network that has been tracking our movements, communications, and decisions for decades. She displayed intercept data, showing communication patterns across Council space. Every message we've sent, every military deployment, every diplomatic negotiation has been observed and recorded by human systems. How is that possible? Demanded the Arcturian delegate. Human technology operates on quantum levels that bypass our encryption and shielding. They've been reading our most classified communications as easily as public broadcasts. The revelation caused an uproar in the assembly. If humans had been monitoring everything for decades, they knew more about Council operations than most Council members did. Furthermore, Jin-A continued, analysis of the data pattern suggests they've been influencing some of our decisions. Influencing how? Subtle manipulations of information flow, timing of communications, and strategic delays in critical messages. Nothing that would be noticed individually, but together they create patterns that guide decision-making in specific directions. General Kyung-ho slammed his fist on his desk. You're saying they've been manipulating us for decades? I'm saying they've been guiding galactic politics to serve their long-term goals. The quarantine didn't contain them. It gave them time to study us and position themselves for eventual dominance. The assembly erupted in angry voices. Representatives from dozens of species began talking at once, some demanding immediate military action while others called for more investigation. Ambassador Hae-Wan called for order. These are serious accusations. Do we have proof of active manipulation? Jin-A displayed detailed communication logs. 3 examples of clear manipulation. The trade dispute between the Vegan colonies and the Centauran worlds was prolonged by delayed diplomatic messages. The Rigelian border conflict was escalated by intercepted communications that reached the wrong recipients at critical moments. The recent Calarian expansion was slowed by technical failures in communication networks during key negotiations. All of these events served human interests? Dr. Nari asked. All of them prevented large-scale conflicts that would have disrupted galactic stability. If humans were planning to emerge from isolation, they would want to inherit a stable galaxy rather than one torn apart by war. The pattern was clear and disturbing. Humanity had been actively managing galactic politics for their own benefit while maintaining the pretense of quarantine. They hadn't been prisoners. They had been puppet masters. What do we do now? Asked the Rigelian ambassador. General Kyung-ho stood again. We demand that all human monitoring devices be removed immediately. We insist on verification of their claimed population and territorial holdings. And we prepare for the possibility that their offer of cooperation is actually a demand for surrender. And if they refuse, Hae-Wan asked, then we assume hostile intent and respond accordingly. Admiral Sujin shook her head. General, my simulations show that military resistance is futile. If humans want to dominate the galaxy, we cannot stop them through force. Then what do you suggest? We try to understand what they actually want. Their actions so far have been peaceful, even helpful in some cases. If they wanted to conquer us, they could have done it decades ago. Dr. Nari agreed. The evidence suggests they've been protecting galactic stability, rather than undermining it. Their interventions prevented wars that would have weakened everyone. Protection we never asked for, General Kyung-ho pointed out. Protection we apparently needed, Jin-ae countered. Analysis shows that without human intervention, the galaxy would likely have experienced at least 3 major wars in the past 50 years. The debate continued for hours. Some delegates wanted to resist human influence, others wanted to negotiate for better terms, and many simply wanted more information before making any decisions. As the session broke for recess, small groups formed throughout the hall. Species representatives discussed private alliances, military options, and diplomatic strategies. The unity of the council was fragmenting under the pressure of humanity's return. Dr. Nari found herself in a quiet corner with Ambassador Haiwan and Admiral Su Jin. "What do you really think?" Haiwan asked quietly. "I think we're dealing with a post-scarcity civilization that has moved beyond traditional concepts of territory and resources," Dr. Nari replied. "They don't want to rule us in the way we understand government. They want to guide our development for purposes we don't fully comprehend." "Toward what end?" "Survival against the threats they claim are approaching. If those threats are real, then human guidance might be the only thing that saves galactic civilization." Admiral Su Jin looked troubled. "And if the threats aren't real? Then we're already under the control of the most advanced species in galactic history, and there's nothing we can do about it." When the session resumed, General Kyung-ho presented a formal motion. The Council demands full transparency from humanity regarding their capabilities, territorial holdings, and long-term intentions. We also demand the immediate cessation of all monitoring activities within Council space. "And if they refuse?" asked the Centauran delegate. "Then we consider them a hostile force and respond with all available resources." The vote was close. 23 species supported the demand, 17 opposed it, and 3 abstained. The Council would present humanity with an ultimatum despite the stars around Council Central Station began to bend. Admiral Su Jin stared at her sensor displays in disbelief as space itself warped around the capital system. Her instruments showed impossible readings as reality seemed to fold like paper around massive objects that shouldn't exist. "Admiral, we have multiple contacts emerging from dimensional space," her sensor officer reported. "Count is uncertain. The ships are stepping in and out of normal space-time." Through the observation deck windows, Su Jin could see them, human ships unlike anything witnessed during the reconnaissance missions. These vessels were enormous, beautiful, and terrifying. They looked more like living organisms than machines, with hulls that rippled and flowed like liquid metal animated by some internal force. "How many?" she asked. "Best estimate is 300 ships, Admiral, but they keep phasing between dimensions so the count changes every few seconds." 300 ships. The entire Council defense fleet numbered only 500 vessels spread across the galaxy. Humanity had brought more than half that number to a single system as a casual demonstration of their capabilities. "Are they taking hostile positions?" "No, Admiral. They're maintaining perfect formation around the system perimeter. No weapons are powered, no targeting systems are active. They're just watching." Admiral Tae-ho commanded the lead Council vessel in the system. His orders were to maintain defensive positions but avoid any actions that could be seen as aggressive. The sight of the human fleet made those orders seem pointless. If humanity wanted to destroy the Council forces, they could do it without the Council ships even knowing they were under attack. "Council Central Station, this is Admiral Tae-ho. Request permission to establish communication with the human fleet." "Permission granted," came the reply from Station Commander Dong-min. "But be extremely careful. We don't know what they're planning." Tae-ho opened a general broadcast channel. "Human fleet, this is Admiral Tae-ho of the Council Defense Force. Please state your intentions." The response came immediately, transmitted simultaneously to every ship and station in the system. The voice was calm and spoke perfect Council standard with subtle harmonics that suggested multiple speakers talking in perfect unison. "Admiral Tae-ho, this is Fleet Coordinator Dong-min of the Human Collective. We come in peace to conclude the diplomatic discussions begun by our representative. Our presence is intended to facilitate communication, not to threaten. Fleet Coordinator Dongmin. The name was familiar, but it took Tae-ho a moment to realize why. Commander Dongmin was the station commander talking to him on the other channel. Either it was a coincidence or humans were choosing names specifically to create psychological connections. Your fleet composition suggests military intent, Tae-ho said carefully. Our fleet demonstrates capability, not intent. We wish the Council to understand the full scope of human development before final negotiations begin. Translation: Humanity wanted the Council to see exactly how outmatched they were before discussing terms. The message was clear without being explicitly threatening. Ambassador Haewon received word of the fleet's arrival while preparing to deliver the Council's ultimatum to Mi-young. The timing was perfect from humanity's perspective. They had arrived just as the Council was planning to make demands, demonstrating the futility of threats before they could be made. She found Mi-young in the diplomatic quarters, sitting calmly, at a simple desk as if massive fleets didn't concern her at all. I assume the arrival of your fleet is connected to our scheduled meeting, Haewon said. The timing is intentional, Mi-young agreed. We wanted to provide context for our discussion. Context or intimidation? Clarity. The Council has spent 3 days debating responses to humanity's return. Some members suggested military resistance. We wanted to eliminate that option from consideration before it led to tragic mistakes. Haewon sat down across from the human representative. Even now, with hundreds of impossible ships surrounding the system, Mi-young maintained the same diplomatic calm she had shown during first contact. The Council has voted to make certain demands, Haewon said. We are aware of the Council's decisions. Every word spoken in your assembly has been monitored and analyzed. That monitoring is one of our primary concerns. Understandable. But consider this. Human monitoring prevented 17 potential conflicts in the past 50 years. Without our intervention, galactic civilization would have experienced multiple, devastating wars. Mi-young produced another small device and placed it on the desk. Holographic displays filled the room, showing detailed analyses of prevented conflicts, saved lives, and preserved resources. The Vegan Centauran trade war would have killed 4 million beings. The Rigelian border conflict would have destroyed 6 inhabited systems. The Calarian expansion crisis would have triggered a galactic recession lasting decades. The data was comprehensive and undeniable. Humanity had been actively protecting galactic stability, while the Council believed they were doing it themselves. We never asked for this protection, Haewon said. Children rarely ask for protection, but they require it nonetheless. The comparison to children was delivered without malice, but it stung. Humanity saw the Council species as juvenile civilizations that needed guidance and protection from themselves. The Council demands an end to all monitoring activities within our territory, Haewon said, delivering the ultimatum despite its obvious futility. That demand cannot be granted. Why not? Because the threats approaching this galaxy will arrive within 50 years. Monitoring is necessary to coordinate defensive preparations. Without human oversight, Council species will make decisions that compromise collective survival. Mi-young activated additional displays showing the approaching entities from beyond the galactic rim. The images were more detailed than before, revealing structures of impossible size and complexity moving through the void between galaxies. These entities consume entire civilizations. They have destroyed thousands of species across multiple galaxy clusters. Earth's isolation allowed us to detect their approach and develop countermeasures. What kind of countermeasures? Technologies that operate outside normal spacetime, weapons that can affect targets across dimensional barriers, and defensive systems that protect entire star systems. But these technologies require coordinated deployment across the galaxy. And you need to monitor us to coordinate this deployment? We need to monitor you to ensure you survive long enough for the deployment to matter. The blunt honesty was typical of human communication. They didn't pretend their actions were entirely altruistic or deny the control they were exercising. They simply explained why that control was necessary. What are you offering in exchange for our cooperation? Haewon asked. Survival, protection from the approaching threats, technology that will advance Council civilization by thousands of years. and integration into a galactic community that spans multiple galaxies. And if we refuse? Mi-young's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. For a moment, Haewon saw the vast intelligence that lurked behind the diplomatic facade. Refusal is not an option that leads to species survival. The approaching entities will consume all unprotected civilizations. Cooperation with humanity is the only path to continuity. That sounds like a threat. It is a statement of fact. The threats are real, our countermeasures are effective, and cooperation is required for implementation. These are not negotiable realities. Dr. Nari had been monitoring the conversation from the station's command center. As the exchange continued, she realized that humanity wasn't offering an alliance. They were explaining the terms of absorption into a larger collective that had already decided the galaxy's future. "Commander, I need to speak with the Admiral immediately," she told Dongmin. "The Admiral is in communication with the human fleet. Then patch me through. The Council needs to understand what's really happening here." A few moments later, Dr. Nari was connected to the command channel between Admiral Taeho and Fleet Coordinator Dongmin. "Fleet Coordinator, this is Dr. Nari of the Council Science Division. I have questions about your long-term intentions. Please proceed, Doctor. Are you planning to integrate Council species into your collective consciousness network? Integration is optional for individuals but necessary for civilizations. Species that remain completely isolated will not survive the approaching threats. What does civilization-level integration mean? Shared defensive systems, coordinated resource management, and unified command structure during crisis periods. Individual species maintain internal autonomy while accepting external guidance on matters affecting collective security. Dr. Nari felt her blood run cold. Humanity was describing a galactic government with themselves as the ultimate authority. The Council would become a local administrative body, while real power rested with the human collective. "Doctor, you seem concerned," Fleet Coordinator Dongmin said. "I'm trying to understand whether Council species will retain any real independence." Define independence. The ability to make decisions about our own futures without external interference. That ability was lost the moment the external threats began approaching this galaxy. The choice now is between human guidance and extinction. The stark honesty was more frightening than any threat could have been. Humanity wasn't conquer,